There's been another emergency at sea involving asylum seekers trying to reach Australia. Early this morning, Australian authorities received a distress call from a boat carrying up to 180 people. It was just off the Java coast and battling rough seas. There were more than 100 deaths last month when 2 asylum seeker boats sank. Indonesia correspondent George Roberts.
They'd barely left the Indonesian mainland when the distress call went out. In the early hours of the morning and battling rough seas, they let their intended destination know that they wanted rescuing. It was only 50 nautical miles off the Indonesian coast when someone on board used a satellite phone to direct dial Australian rescue authorities.
Very rough weather, water coming on board, waves crashing into the boat. You can imagine the terror of people on the boat when it's taking on water.
Technically, the boat was in the Indonesian search and rescue zone, so a fax was fired off to alert authorities here in Jakarta. After 3 hours, a second one was fired off, demanding that Indonesian authorities declare whether they were coordinating a response. But the head of Indonesian Rescue concedes that it's ill-equipped to deal with these situations on its own.
It would be more effective and efficient for us to work together with the Navy, and when in need of big planes like the Hercules, I think it would also be more efficient, more effective to work together with the Air Force.
The Australian Navy responded, but high seas hampered efforts to get aboard and decide whether the people needed rescuing or whether the boat should be turned back to Indonesia.
It's a decision that's made by the experts on the scene, by the operational experts. It's not the sort of decision that should be made by politicians.
The trouble with leaving it to politicians is they can't agree.
It's not our fault because we're not the government. We didn't bring the legislation into the parliament.
Both sides want offshore processing, but they're still locked in a standoff as to how to achieve it. So far, it seems this boat and those on board are safe, and it's still motoring towards Christmas Island. Perhaps politics is the only casualty.